Good afternoon. Welcome, students. We are so happy to see you. All right. You guys are in the information technology session, and my name is Janelle Lemieux. I am a CTE specialist with the Issaquah School District. I did teach computer science for 15 years, so IT certainly has a special place in my heart. We are joined today by Chris Dahl with Atomic and Todd Blair with PC Fix. And I am going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves and give you a little bit of their background. So why don't we start with Todd?
Welcome everybody, my name is Todd Blair. I own and operate a company called PC Fix. I made this joke last time. I don't know if youth know what a PC is, so we'll call it a computer fix business where we fix devices and stuff like that. Been doing it for about 20 years, owned and operated my own business for 20 years. Started out way back in 1987 in the military, learning about technology. It was the first year they came out with an information technology program in the military. And I forgot to mention this last time. My first job title was Personnel Information Systems Management Specialist. That's a big title to put on a business card, if you will. We've now just called me Todd Father of Technology. We shortened that down, if you will, and stuff. So glad to have everybody on board and look forward to answering any questions you might have about information technology or entrepreneurship for that matter.
All right, and Chris.
Yeah, welcome everybody. My name is Chris. I'm with a company called Atomic. We're in Issaquah, our headquarters. We have a studio, production studio in Seattle as well, where we produce a number of live events and broadcasts. Our company, we're about 10 years old. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary, and we kind of do three things. One is software development and building applications and apps and things, and then we have a IT support team, and then the team that I run is called our live events team, and we do a number of high-tech digital events that might be anywhere in the globe. I've traveled to many countries to do projects where we'll set up large numbers of computers and wireless networking to support hundreds and thousands of people. And a lot of what we do is in the esports industry, so we're doing a lot of work with different video game publishers in the area and globally. My specific role is I manage a team of technical experts and producers and all kinds of things. And so I kind of have my background is mixed. I did a lot of marketing and software development for a while, and then I kind of came into this digital event management kind of side of it, which I've been doing focused on for about 5 years. So I've kind of had a number of different partial careers in my career. So, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now.
Thank you again for joining us today. Students, this is a reminder, this conference is for you. It's to address any of your curiosities, your wonderings that you have about this specific career path. So make sure that if you have a question, just put it in the Q&A, and we will get to it right after the first question. Also, putting those positive comments in the chat and reflections in the chat is also welcome. So without further ado, I'm going to start us off with our first question here. It is, please describe your experience, especially with non-4-year degree positions, that you have encountered at your company or in this career path.
Well, I'll start. I do not have a 4-year degree myself. As I alluded to early on, I did go in the military, serve my country for 4 years, but did not pursue college. College wasn't for me. I didn't get good grades. I have 3 high schoolers. Well, I have 2 high schoolers and 1 college student right now, and so they get much better grades than I did. I chose the military over school, but right out of the military, I said I went in for training. That's where I got my training, was in the military, if you will. That was back in 1987 to 1991. And after that, you know, the information technology world is such a big business. I don't even like to call it information technology because it encompasses too much. Whether you're a game developer or a, you know, service provider, it's just such a great big field out there, and there's so many different career paths, if you will. One of the questions was about, you know, what best prepares you for becoming an information technology major? And that is like, what vertical do you want to be? There is no specific class going into information technology. I personally support small business networks and fixed computers. You know, Chris does videography and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you're talking to somebody that does not have a 4-year degree that owns and operates his own IT business.
So, you know, like Todd, I also don't have a 4-year degree. I never completed mine, and part of that was timing. When I was sort of going through this, there was a thing that called the .com boom, and there was a strong demand for people with skills like mine, and so it made perfect sense at the time to go and do that. And then sort of once things got going, I never looked back. So there are certainly lots of roles in technology fields that don't require 4-year degrees, and I think that a lot of the most forward-looking organizations are not, you know, heavily prioritizing. There are still some legacy companies that are going to value a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree and more than others, but almost every position at Atomic can be done by somebody without a degree. I'd say that we're probably, I bet you most people in the company do have a degree, but it's certainly not something that we prioritize. For us, it's much more important to have really strong interpersonal skills, to have hustle, drive, a passion for learning and developing, and just being a really great teammate. Those are far more important for us, and it's things that we really try to identify in when we're interviewing people and selecting candidates for the team. Todd touched briefly on Layla's question about which courses in high school best prepare for becoming an information technology major. I don't, you know, I'm gonna sort of address this more about what would prepare you more for information technology career rather than a major. I think for me, and I think Todd touched on this as well, is that it depends very much on where your passions lie and where you think you're going to go. Technology as a field, information technology even specifically, could be everything from the medical field to the video game industry, or helping through ecology and environmental. There's all kinds of different things you can do. For me, what was most important as an entrepreneur in the technology industry was the marketing work that the marketing classes that I took. Partially because they were integrated technology into them. And I think probably a lot of your high schools have a DECA program. That was really, helpful for me in terms of having some additional projects that are not necessarily traditional schoolwork. And so really thinking like you would as an entrepreneur or as you get into your career. So having projects like the entrepreneurship project that they do at DECA, the competition, all those sorts of things that they really put me on a path to be able to run and operate my own business.
So in addition to any tech classes, it sounds like classes that can help with your communication skills too,
Yep.
like the DECA project is
absolutely 100%.
Yeah,
there weren't a ton of
great.
technology classes. I graduated in '97, and this was right when we had internet at the schools and things like that. But you really had to be really passionate about it to get the most out of it. So I know that's changed a lot. There's probably other classes and things that are very, very valuable. But for me, it was definitely the marketing stuff for exactly the reason you mentioned.
Yeah. And I know all of our schools have the introduction to computer science, so that's always a good baseline to see what your interest level is in it, and then go up from there. Thank you. Gentlemen, I don't know if you can actually click the answer live button on that Q&A, but it won't let me. So if you want to try that. Okay.
It didn't let me.
All right. Okay. All right. So number 2, what are the highlights of working in this career pathway?
Well, we talked about it last time. It's not quite information technology driven, but the highlights are basically, for me, has been serve the public, fixing computers, keeping the printer running, keeping stuff like that. I keep it fairly simple in the break fix business, if you will. Career highlights is just being able to serve others. We talked about it in the last session about, your technical skills are just one part of the job here at PC Fix. The bigger part is your personality skills. Being able to communicate, work together as a team, help each other out and stuff like that in the tech world. And again, I'm talking mostly on the break fix side, just fixing computers and working with customers and so forth on it. So it still goes back to, I've really enjoyed the highlights of my career has just been serving others and fixing other people's problems, if you will. I spent a lifetime fixing other people's problems in the PC Fix business. So really have enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, the highlights for me is, and it's been, like I said, we mentioned in the last session, but nobody was on that. So we haven't been able to do a lot of this with the pandemic, but favorite part of my job was the travel. I really enjoy other cultures, food, seeing, history and experiencing history. So that part of the job I really like. There's parts of the travel I didn't like for sure, like getting sick all the time on airplanes and in terms of like always coming back with a cold and things like that. But by and large, being able to travel was a really cool experience. And I know that, a lot of technology jobs, are applicable all over the place. So, and if you're a specialist, they want to take you and send you to where you can do your work best. So, that's definitely a highlight of it. I hope that we get back to it again because it was really one of the more enjoyable parts of the job. But the other parts I really like is the flexibility. Theoretically, we have the ability to work remotely and kind of set our schedules a little differently. Sometimes we can't, but so those are sort of two of the parts that I really like.
Great. And Katie has a great follow-up question to that. What are some of the difficult parts of your job? What are some of the downsides?
Mine goes back to fixing other people's problems. They think, oh, we just touch it and it works, if you will. And one thing about the technology business, in my eyes, being a break fix computer repair store or whatever, is the dynamics of just every day there's always something new. Hey, we have never seen that happen before. And then we continually have to figure it out. We're constantly figuring things out as we go. We talked about before, I don't have a 4-year degree, and my employees don't have a 4-year degree as well. But we just have to figure out every day there's something new that pops up, and it's so dynamic. It's like, oh, we've never seen this before. How are we going to figure this out? And so forth. So.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have a job that I think it's difficult, but it's also pretty enjoyable for the most part. I have a great team that I work with, great clients, and so that's really, really helpful. But I'd say a couple of the things that are pretty difficult. I think the hiring process is pretty difficult. Talking to lots of people and try to identify, is this really a person that we want to bring onto the team? And then so that part is just tough. It's just a lot of people you got to talk to, and it's a very subjective process to where you don't have a lot of empirical evidence to go on. So it's sort of, as somebody who really likes to make informed decisions, I think it's actually pretty difficult. Likewise, managing people, I think, can be difficult. It's always tough to have a conversation with somebody who's struggling in their job. And so that's part of my job that I don't like having to do. But it's also part of being a leader is going and having difficult conversations with people to help them. People won't improve unless you can communicate. So the issues that you're having. So it's really important to do that. There's a part of my job where we're doing live events. We do a lot of broadcasting work. And they say sometimes that that role of being in a broadcast control room is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. That it's probably the only most stressful job in the world where nobody can die. So sure, you're an airline pilot or a surgeon or something like that, but nobody's going to die in our industry. And so there's been some projects where I've had to be a decision maker, calling the shots on things where it's a very, very stressful part of the job. But it's other jobs have stressful parts too. So it's I think in general, I think that the technology industry is maybe less stressful than a lot of other jobs because I'm not actually totally sure why, but I think it has a lot to do with the opportunity that exists and sort of the, um, there's a lot of tools available to help reduce the stress, and you build a great team to work with, and there's different, you kind of have a little bit of freedom and flexibility to make your situation a little better. Some jobs you don't have a lot of flexibility. You don't have, it's a very rigid, structured thing, and if you either like it or you don't, and there's not a lot of wiggle room.
Great. All right. What are some characteristics or soft skills that someone should have to be successful in this career path? You guys have kind of alluded to several of those, but I want to emphasize.
Yeah, as Chris was alluding to, it's the people, it's the personalities, it's the team working together as one to solve a problem. I alluded to the fact that we fix computers, but we also do cybersecurity. And a lot of times when cybersecurity crimes are happening in small businesses, we have to come together as a team and work through how this might have happened and come up with all the different analogies and stuff like that and be able to track it down as a team. And we have to call on one another for, hey, can you check this part out? Can you check that out? So a lot of, no matter if it's information technology or what career you go into, it goes back to the personableness of a person, if that's a word, personableness of a person. Being able to work together as a team, be able to hear each other's ideas. And you're going to disagree, but be able to communicate that in a fashion that may not offend that person, if you will, and so forth. So yeah, that would be one of the soft skills in the career. I've alluded to it before at PC Fix. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to be the most technical person, but you have to work together well with others. And that's a big part of it as an entrepreneur and so forth. So.
Yeah, our situation is really similar. I'd say that we almost exclusively value the interpersonal skills and the soft skills over the hard pure tech. We've had some really, really phenomenally talented, smart people that are difficult to get along with and generally aren't great teammates. And that sort of person is going to struggle at our company and probably most companies. So I'd say 100% being able to communicate and work as a team and sort of, hustling and just being, all those things are super, super important. We talk about we want to be the last person out of the building. We want to be the first people there. This sort of those work ethic things are just super, super important. And it's actually something that, from a communication and interpersonal skills, one of the things that, and I apologize if I'm making a generalization, but I think that a lot of women do really well in this industry because they, and this is the generalization part, is that I think in general they have better interpersonal skills. And so, that's one of the things to sort of look at what your skills and what you're good at. But that's one of the things that you don't have to be the best technical person. And there's a lot of women that are on our team and otherwise that are really, really great technically, but they're, that interpersonal communication and teamwork side of it is far more important. And so it's kind of a shame that in our industry we see a gender gap in terms of number of people working in high tech jobs, but there's certainly plenty of opportunity for both women and men in this.
I can add just real quick, coming off you here, I can add real quick here, we're talking quite a bit about our interpersonal skills on this question, if you will. And it's always difficult, like I said, when we go out to hire somebody, a PC Fix, I'm going to use the break fix side of it, there has to be experience. And we've actually tutored or mentored or had interns that have come into our business and we just set computers up and they're not customer computers, whatever. But there was so much value and they recognized it. And I alluded to the fact is that if you're not going to pursue your college degree, you still have to go get that experience. So going out and doing internships, and whether it's a paid or paid not, we have people that want to get paid on their internships, others don't, but it's getting that experience. It's just getting involved with it, being able to get that experience out there. And it's tough, but it's one thing that, like I said, that you do need that experience and so forth. So don't be afraid to take on these internships, whether paid or not paid type situations. I've encouraged my kids to do that as well. Get out there and get that experience. And it's going to take time and patience. Chris and I we were talking about this .com era. We had high school kids graduating from their computer programming class in high school that thought they were worth $120,000, $150,000 when the internet was going up, and that was a boom. It was a bust, if you will. But you've got to get out there and get that experience. And sometimes it takes volunteering at the local tech shop or stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I spent a lot every summer in high school. I went to the community college to participate in internship programs, and a couple things that I got out of that is that I got a level of skill building that was not frankly available in school. And on top of it, and I think maybe probably even more valuable, is that the people that I met during those projects, those internships, were people that I still work with today. And so the network building part of it is really, really critical. There's a couple of ways to approach that. Certainly, doing internships is sort of the traditional way, and I think it's very, very valuable to do that. You often need a school to sort of sponsor you in that task, but there are other opportunities as well that don't require that. Certainly in these days, if you're passionate about software development, there's all kinds of open source projects you can participate in. You're going to learn project management. You're going to learn all the skills in terms of not just developing software, but how do you manage a project, or how do you work with other people on the same software project. If you're passionate about video and that sort of stuff, you can create your own YouTube channel and actually build shows. There's almost an endless opportunity to take control of your own destiny with the internet and the sort of democratization of tools and learning online. So the sky's the limit. You just have to be passionate about it and go for it. So I agree with Todd. Internships and things like that are great for building skills and networking. And you never want to have the situation where like, I can't get a job because I have no experience, and I have no experience. Or what is it? So we can't get a job because I have no experience, but I can't get any experience without getting a job. So there are ways to sort of break out of that paradox, and that's what Todd was talking about.
Thank you for adding that on. We're going to go to our Q&A window here, and Katie has a question. What made you choose this career path? Why did you want to do information technology?
Well, I'll start. And I said this, I think, in the session early on. I graduated high school in 1987. Microsoft was formed in 1985. So that was the new, what do you want to call it? Vertical, if you will. Information technology really didn't exist. It kind of existed, but it didn't really exist until I was graduating. So I happened to hit right at the right time when technology, software, computers were just being developed and so forth out there. So I got, it was just timing for me. And I've been doing it now for 35 years.
Yeah, I hate to sound like an echo chamber, but for me, it was probably 85% timing and 15% passion / compatibility. I'll go 50-50. I mean, the internet became a thing when I was growing up, and so and I was really passionate about it. And back then, the gap between somebody who has some knowledge and no knowledge was still a huge gap. And so if you built on that, you were light years ahead of your peers in terms of marketability and ability to go get work. So that was a big part of it with the .com boom coming and doing all that sort of work. And I got into software development in a big way. Did that for over a decade. I'd say in a lot of ways it sort of picked me more than I picked it. I think if I had been 10 years older, I might have had a very, very different career path. And likewise, if I was 10 years late, probably would have had a different career path as well. So it was sort of a perfect timing for me to kind of ride the wave of the internet. And because of the continued growth, it's just sort of been a wave I've surfed. But I always had a passion for engineering and that sort of stuff. So that was sort of, I was very sort of a technical, nerdy kind of kid. So it really was a perfect fit for me. But I also had a passion for things like marketing, and just there was stuff that, like, it was kind of a cool confluence of technology and business that really, like, that intersection is where I was really passionate about. So like, kind of perfect timing. I was really fortunate. But that being said, hey, the growth of phones, the growth of AI right now, the stuff going on with sports. There's a number of big industries that are on a strong upward trajectory. That it is not a bad time. This is the greatest time to be alive in terms of opportunity and everything. So we are all very, very fortunate.
Well, that's a good segue into what might be our last question here. What changes have you seen or anticipate in this pathway due to current events?
Virtualization. This is the new norm. The seminars, and I really enjoy it. I had mentioned in the last session that I get a little nervous behind the camera. I do fine in public speaking. I do fine in front of a group of people, but this little Logitech camera sitting on top of my monitor makes me nervous. But this is the new norm. COVID has just accelerated the virtualization in these type of events, these type of seminars, these type of communications, if you will. I think the virtualization, I think we'll continue to see these type of meetings. We have sales calls on a regular basis now on Zoom. It's so much easier. There was a company up in Bellingham that we were entertaining, if you will. And typically you'd get in a car and drive up there and waste a whole day and meet with them. Jump on Zoom, jump on any other WebEx or whatever, and boom, we're right there. So I think the virtualization has really accelerated through COVID. The work at home, I've got a wife that works for one of the Fortune 500 companies here in the Seattle area, and they don't foresee their employees going back to work for the next couple of years, if you will, and it could even be longer. I think the virtualization has just been really accelerated through COVID, if you will. We're teaching online, we're meeting online. I know we enjoy our one-on-one time or get-together time, and that's been affected by COVID. We'll get back to that in the months to come. But I think that your business is going to operate virtually. I think more schools will go to virtualization. You'll sit in your dorm. In fact, my daughter, she's sitting in a dorm room right now doing online school. And I think that'll expand, actually. I know we love to go to our classes, but some of us don't. Some of us like to sit in our bed with our jammies on and get an education out there. So that's the biggest change that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably going to be working remote for quite a while, for the most part. But I think one of the biggest changes, and I'm pivoting from what I said in the previous session, I think what's kind of been a huge, driver in my career over the last 5-10 years has been sort of the democratization of sharing information on the internet. So what I mean by that is like social networks have taken off, that sort of stuff. People that were just a single person now can be an influencer on scale that is never before seen. So things like, there's used to have to be a great singer or a great athlete or things like that to be sort of have a platform, and now that's not necessary. And certainly what YouTube has done to democratize, video content, and then to see what Twitch has done to broadcasting. We built a business around, streaming on YouTube and Twitch and all those sorts of things. So that's not going away. I mean, the number of people that watch the content that we produce is incredible. Like, it's millions of people are watching the shows that we work on. So it's like that, to think of that happening 10 years ago, it's sort of mind-boggling, that you would have, that television would have strong competition from, internet TV in a very, very different model in terms of the kinds of content and the way it's delivered. Unpredictable, completely unpredictable. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future. I think that we're going to continue to sort of, watch more content that's, like YouTube and Twitch and that sort of stuff, and less of the traditional stuff. And I'm kind of excited for it because it means that people like you and I can actually potentially have a platform and, do some really great things. So I don't have to necessarily be a big Hollywood producer to go create the next great, video or whatnot. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Great. Well, Todd and Chris, thank you so much for giving us your time today and your expertise. You have definitely given our students information that will help them make some decisions about what their potential career path might look like. So students, you have 15 minutes to stretch. Definitely visit the expo before the next session. If this IT field interests you, be sure to seek out opportunities in the expo booths to figure out how you might use them to pursue. And the next session starts at 1:40. So session 3 starts at 1:40. Thank you everyone for being with us today.